Let's say you have a set of data in this format where you have the field name on the left and the detail of that field on the right. It would be quite difficult to pivot this data here in Excel. In fact, I don't think I'd even want to think about the time it would take to do this in Excel. Let me instead show you how to get this end result here using Advanced Pivot in Power Query in just 4 steps. Here we have the fields for customer, sales rep, sales order number, product, sales value, order date, with the details next to each field. This is for the customer Marvel & Co. And we have the same fields with the relevant details repeated for the rest of our customers, Stark Inc. and Wayne Enterprises. Let's press Ctrl T to convert this to a table format and call this table Customer Sales Data. Let's send this to Power Query. In the Data tab, click on From Table or Range, and here in the Query Editor, we have our Customer Sales Data table. Let's remove the Change Type step as we will perform this at the end. Our first step is to add an index column. In the Add Column tab, click Index Column, and this index column is added. So each of our line items are numbered from 0 to 17. The data for our first customer starts at 0 and ends at line 5. The next one, Stark Inc., starts at line 6 and ends at line 11. And our last customer starts at line 12 and ends at 17. As customer is the starting point for each of these records, we need to grab each customer into a new column, so we will do this with a conditional column. On the Add Column tab, click on Conditional Column. I'll leave the column name as Custom. Here is our if statement like in Excel. So if name equals customer, then for output, click the drop down here and change this to select a column. And the column we want as our output is the index column, else null, and click OK. Step 3, we need to fill down these values. So right click on Custom and click Fill Down. So all the records for Marvel is 0. For Stark, all the records are 6. And for Wayne, all are 12. We don't need the index column anymore, so let's remove that. Step 4. We can now pivot this data. Click the field name column to select it, as each of the unique rows in this column will be pivoted into new columns. So customer will be a new column with customer as the customer header, and so will sales rep, and so forth. So take note here, we have 3 columns. Let's pivot our data. In the Transform tab, click Pivot Column, and this Pivot Column dialog box pops up. Here for Values column, click on the drop down and select Detail, as this is the column that has our values. In the Advanced Options section, let's select Don't Aggregate and click OK, and our data has been pivoted. Let's remove the Custom column. So our 3 columns have now become 6, as we had 6 unique rows in the field name column, which we selected to pivot into new columns. Let's change the order date column to date and press Ctrl A to select all our data and select Detect Data Type. Our data types look good. Let's send this back to Excel. And we have our pivoted data. This is dynamic. So let's bring in a new customer and hit refresh, and our new customer has been added. I have one more pivot example I'd like to show you. Here we have our data already in a table called Customer Budgets. We have the account manager, customer code, the customer name, then the actual and budget are in the same column with their values in a separate column. And what we actually want is for our data to be pivoted into this format with a column showing the variance of actual to budget. Let's send this data to Power Query. Here in the Query Editor, we have our Customer Budgets table. Let's fill down Account Manager, Customer Code, and Customer. Then let's click on the Actual or Budget column to select it, as we want to create a new column called Actual and another called Budget. So in the Transform tab, click Pivot Column, and for values, let's select Value, as that's where our values are. Then in the Advanced Options, let's aggregate our values by summing it up. If you used Don't Aggregate, you would get the same result as sum, as there is only one value for actual and one for budget per customer. If there was more than one per customer, then sum should be used. So let's future-proof this and use sum, and click OK, and we have our pivoted data with our actual values in the actual column and the budget values in its own separate column. Now, to get the variance column, click on the actual column to select it, hold down the Control key and select the budget column. Then in the Add Column tab, click on the drop-down for Standard and click on Subtract. And we have our variance column. Let's rename this column to Variance to Budget and send this back to Excel. And we have our pivoted report. Let's test out the automation by adding a new customer and hit refresh, and the automation works. If you would like to become more advanced in Power Query, please check out this video here, Power Query Advanced. It will really help you understand the advanced editor, which shows you the behind the scenes code that Power Query creates with each step-by-step transformation. Knowing these basics will help up your Power Query skills and introduce you to M code, which is Power Query's formula language. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.